do you have advice for recent high school grads?
So now you have a new beginning. You have a new beginning. You don't get that many of those in your life. Mm-hmm. If you move, if you switch jobs, if you make a radical life transformation, you may have that. Sometimes that's accidental. It's thrust upon you. That's different. That's harder. Sometimes it's because of opportunity. But maybe you get 4 or 5 opportunities like that in your life. So they're rare. You get to be someone new. Who? Have a vision. So when I started to puzzle this out, it was often because of talking to clients or students who didn't know what to do. What should I do with my life? I don't know what to do with my life. Fair enough. And that's not a very good question. What do I do with my life? It's like, what's the answer to everything? It's not a good question, right? It's too vague. So I suppose I answered this to some degree, at least initially, like a conservative person. I said, well, what other people do? Well, they have an intimate relationship. They have a family. So that could be your birth family, so you could fix that up. Or it could be, your new family, your kids, your wife. They have friends. They have a social community. That might involve civic responsibility, which is something we're direly lacking at the moment. You need a job. You need to take care of yourself mentally and physically. You need to educate yourself. You need to regulate your reaction to temptation. There's 8 things. Okay, so now you get to be whoever you want, but you have to want it and you have to aim at it. And so to do that, you have to have a vision. Part of the utility of literature is the provision of such visions. Negative, in the case of anti-heroes, positive in the case of protagonists. Who could you be? Part of the advantage of being educated in the humanities is that you can draw your models from the best history has to offer. And that's really what an education in humanities should present you with. It's like, here are the great people of history, and that's you in potential. And so that means you can establish a new peer group. In some sense, my peer group has always been the people whose books I most admired. And that's a reach, right? Because who dares to compare himself, herself to the truly great people of the past? Nietzsche for me, Dostoevsky, Jung, and then the classic philosophers like Plato and Aristotle and Kant and Hume, all these stunning people that were brilliant beyond conception. That's a high reach and presumptuous in some sense. But the point of a humanities education is in large part to surround yourself with peers of the highest quality. And so you do that in the world of abstraction, and the teachers are there to guide you through that if they only knew that. Mm-hmm. And then you also want to do that with your peers. So one of the things you want to ask yourself if you're graduating from high school is, well, now I'm off to do something else. Might be a job, might be college, might be trade school. It's like, I'm going to make new friends. What's a friend? What do I want? I want someone to tell good news to, who will celebrate with me. I want someone to tell bad news to, who will be upset that something bad happened to me and not secretly happy. I want someone who's aiming up for me and for them. Or not. Or do you not want that? It's like, what do you want if you're taking care of yourself? What would you want in a relationship? You need a vision for this. And we do an staggeringly appalling job of helping young people even understand that that's necessary. And I know partly why. I was very curious about this because I spent a lot of time with this future authoring program, self-authoring, part of the self-authoring suite, because we built a program to help people make a plan. And once we built the program, one of the things we found, for example, was that if you gave it to young men who were entering college, the few months before they went to college, they were 50% less likely to drop out in the first year.
Yeah,
it's crazy. For a 90-minute exercise, it's like, that's just... If the world had any sense, every single college would have immediately used that upon publication of our paper. But none of them did. And that says something.
Is that mainly just goal setting? Like, what do you want? Well, envision that and then...
I think goal setting is the wrong way to think about it. I think it's too narrow a conceptualization. I think that you need literally to imagine it. It's like you get to be who you want. Well, you need to run the story, like in detail. And if you're trying to predict whether someone's going to commit suicide, you ask them, well, have you ever thought about harming yourself? Well, sometimes. Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Well, the thoughts crossed my mind. Do you have a plan? Yeah, I have a plan. Well, can you tell me about the plan? Well, my dad has a .45 in the top shelf of his desk. I've seen it in there several times. The bullets are in the drawer next door. I thought, I could probably put that in my mouth in the bathroom so I didn't make too much of a mess, and probably do that in the morning.
That's
like, that's not good.
Yeah.
Right. That person's in danger. A plan. Yeah, because the dream has entered their mind. They've visualized it. And so it's not goal setting. It's much more like casting yourself in a fully fleshed out literary representation. It's like, what is your future? Who are you? And what you want to do is negotiate with yourself. It's like, just imagine, this is a gospel idea, right? That if you knock, the door will open. If you ask, you will receive. If you seek, you will find. And no one believes that. But I believe it's true.
Yeah, me too.
But it depends on what you mean by knock, ask, and seek. Because it means if you mean it.
Yeah, if your life depends on it.
Yeah, that's basically. Right. That's right. You're all in on it. It's like, you want this? What do you mean want?
You don't kind of want.
No, that's right.
You don't want for like 2 minutes of the day and then you get bored.
Right, right. And your right hand wants it and your left hand doesn't. And no, it doesn't mean that at all. It means you're going to make the sacrifices necessary and you're all in on it. Okay, so then the question becomes, well, what's worth going all in on? And the answer to that is, ask yourself, because we know that life has an unbearable element to it. And so facing that forthrightly, say, life's suffering, man, and plenty of it. And so what might make that worthwhile? Well, what if I had someone I really loved, who I was really attracted to, that I was really in love with, that I was sexually entranced by? It's like, or what if I was that person for someone else? Because that's actually a better plan. What would I have to do to myself to hypothetically be someone like that for someone else? Which is a much better way of thinking about it. What if I had kids that I loved? What if I had friends like King Arthur had friends? What if I was part of a enterprise that was fundamentally changing the world for the better? It's like, would that justify it? Well, you have to ask yourself. And if it isn't everything you need it to be, then it's not a good vision. And you're in an impossible situation anyways. So why not try to do something impossible? It's not going to be, in some sense, it's not going to be any more difficult in any real sense, although it's going to require more dedication. It's not going to be any more difficult than just slumping along to the grave